there, Evolutionaries. I am Joe Heller, and I am wicked excited you're here today. Today, we're going to go a little bit further down the rabbit hole on rituals and teaching you how to ritualize it. Now, if you haven't seen part one, so this is part two, check out part one because it's really cool, and I got such great questions and feedback. That's why I'm doing a part two, because rituals are something which ionize the capacity to grow exponentially and really achieve and have anything in your life. It is the true way to tap into the magic of the universe. It is the technology of the God force within, because rituals reside in the heart. And everybody, of course, has talked about habits. Habits are for the mundane. They're for the muggles of the world. So using a little Harry Potter speak there. But seriously, it is stepping out of the mundane and into the realm of the God force. And rituals are a technology. And this is exactly what I'll share with you today, because the cusp, the key, the pinnacle to all spirituality is rituals. Now, why do I say that? Well, because if you look at the word spirituality, and how many of you have actually detected the word ritual in the middle of the word spirituality? So this is the anchor point. This is the forgotten. It's hidden in plain sight. And so as we, again, begin to go down the rabbit hole and understand how to access the God force that resides within our heart, this is the 0 point field of creation. We begin to escape the mundane. We begin to create the pinnacle of all there is by ritualizing our life. And so rituals, again, just for those who didn't see part one, I'm going to do a quick summary, are heart-based. Now, the interesting thing about being heart-based, not even interesting, the hidden gnosis, the truth, the wisdom behind being heart-based is really understanding there are two distinct schools. The two distinct schools in the ancient teachings that nobody ever talks about. One is the path of the eye. And this is what everybody talks about relative to the third eye. This is why I talk about why the third eye is not as important as everybody makes it out to be, because it's not. The third eye, while it is and does have a function, it is the path of the exoteric. So the exoteric is the path of the commoner, the path of the peasant. And I know nobody watching this video wants to be a commoner or a peasant. You want to take the path of the master. The path of the master is the heart-based path. It is the esoteric. It is the way into heaven. The path of the eye alone, which has been taught and construed and corrupted by the elite as being the way, is the way into the artificial construct of the astral realm. The astral realm is an artificial construct. It is a trap. And for those of you who are doing astral travel, good for you. But I'm here to kind of share with you that there is something beyond the astral. The astral is like a bubble, a construct, which is specifically designed to entrap you in the mundane and make you feel like you've accomplished something beyond. Because when you're exploring the astral, you get caught up in the mundane, which keeps you from stepping beyond the mundane, or actually bypassing the mundane, the astral realm, and stepping into heaven. So as we look at going through the heart, we are accessing the power of the God force, the power of heaven. Now, what is the mechanics? So just so you understand what happens here and why I talk specifically about the heart. Actually, it's not just, well, it actually is specifically about the heart. Because when you do Kundalini, and let me tell you, Kundalini is not a big deal. My dead grandmother could do Kundalini. So sorry about all those people out there teaching Kundalini, think it's a big deal. It is not Kundalini. Let me share with you the mechanics of Kundalini, because there's probably no one out there that actually talks about it or understands it. So Kundalini is rising the pressure along your spine in order to create a conduit current that puts pressure on the third eye, the pineal gland. So why does it do that? Well, there's actually tiny crystals in the third eye. These tiny crystals, when they are pressurized, they create a piezoelectric effect, which opens a door. So if you think about it this way, for those of you who understand or know what I was going to say a crystal radio, because really your body is a crystal radio. This is why I teach and talk about the law of attunement. But you are tuning in when you create friction pressure, you're actually creating an attunement as these crystals come together. They're creating a harmonic, an oscillation, which tunes you in, just like you're tuning a radio. It tunes you into a different frequency. Now, so that is somewhat of an artificial, if you will, happening. And so when you use Kundalini, it is a temporary effect. It may have some residual, but when you learn how to operate from the heart is a magnetic field. And so the heart creates a field as such that's based in love. Now the heart itself is a container. It is the sanctum sanctorum. It is the most sacred place on the body or within the body. It is the first organ that is formed so the soul can come and reside. The seat of God is the heart. And so with that, you're able to access the heavens. But the interesting thing, and this is one of the things that I don't know if it's ever been shared publicly, and you're like, well, Joe, how do you know all this stuff? Well, I fell on my head and had like conversations with angels. So anyway, but back to the point, because we're all angelics here, so that's why I'm sharing this with you. When you access the heart, so instead of a piezoelectric effect, you create a piezomagnetic effect. So piezomagnetics is actually using the pulse energy from your heart, from the God force, to attune the crystals that are aligned within your third eye. And so within the pineal gland, as these crystals form in shape, not from a physical pressure from Kundalini, but based in love, you now have access to a different realm of reality. And so as you go through, you create this piezomagnetic effect, which, again, magnetics is the key here because of the magnetic field that emanates from your heart. And the beautiful thing about magnetic, which a lot of people don't really put two and two together, but when you think about the three wise men, which has actually been changed, they weren't really, they were wise men, but they were Magi, meaning they had magic, meaning they had control of magnetism. And so when you control magnetism that originates from your heart, you expand the toroidal field, this field emanating from your heart, and this field that emanates from your heart is the catalyst for all things within the God force because it emanates from God. And so as we, again, and that's actually one of the reasons that I use the butterfly, because Christ, to me, represents, and what's been shown to me, the chrysalis of the emerging heart, which now is a time of the Great Awakening, and the emerging heart, the butterfly that resides within each and every one of us, because you are such magnificent, infinite beings that are just on the cusp and are already emerging as these amazing beings. And so it's really thrilling for me. So when you look at Magi, for magnetism, you tap into the imagination. And imagination is really key here because it really spins up the ability for you to tap in. So, but let's break down the word imagine. So the first word is I magi, right? So we just talked about magi and magic. So I am the magician. But it's a magician in a way that represents and works for God. It is like the Melchizedek priest, the first priest of God here on earth. This is what you're tapping into. This is really the armor of God they talk about with regards to the magnetic field that emanates from your heart, because it is the empowerment of the God force here on earth. So as you step in and create this imagi, you begin to open up your heart, and you begin to awake and become aware, and this becomes a circle. So again, spherical, and it's an expanding sphere. So as you expand the sphere, you get to tap into things which will blow your mind. You get to tap into the heavens. And as you begin to tap into the heavens, you begin to meet teachers. Now, if you remember from one of my earlier videos, people talk about beliefs. People talk about knowings. But there's a step beyond beliefs and knowings, and that is agreement. So once you step past the knowings and you form this essence of expanded magnetism from your heart, you draw near, because you're expanding up, you're actually connecting with the God forces above, and you meet all these amazing teachers. And this is really where I get a lot of my teachings, because my teachers in the beginning had to teach me how to access them. And it took me a while. So I had to attune to their levels. And this is a beautiful thing, because I had to figure out ways in which to, again, the crystal radio within, attune myself so that I could have these conversations with these great teachers and gods, so I could bring this information to you. So again, belief, knowing, agreement. And then one of the cool things is when you start doing these types of meditation, you're going to see teachers kind of on the fringe, and then you're going to expand, and then you're going to step into spaces, morphogenic fields, if you will, with these great teachers, and they're going to share with you things that are mind-blowing, that will really illuminate and take you to a completely different level of inner standing. And so as we talk about all this, the heart is the arc. It's kind of like Iron Man. If you ever saw Iron Man, he had this thing, it's called the arc reactor. That's exactly what your heart is. It is the arc reactor. Have you ever wondered what an archangel is? Well, the archangel is a warrior that leads from their heart. The heart is the ark. It is the ark of the covenant, which gives you or empowers every aspect and takes and empowers your DNA to its full extent and going beyond the 12-strand DNA. So the arc factor, once you illuminate it with the God force, creates an evolutionary path for everyone that is going to be amazing. I mean, I don't even really know how to describe it or put it in words. And there's been several conversations I had with angels and gods, and I don't even really understand. Actually, I just never really understand. I can't put it into words because these conversations are so amazing. It's like trying to describe a Rembrandt painting to someone who's not able to see. Anyway, so stepping back into the expansion, let me talk a little bit about how I actually step into and do rituals. So, as some of you know, when I looked up at the universe and asked the universe to restore the gifts that I had forsaken this lifetime, the very first mantra that they gave to me, a mantra is just a phrase that they told me to repeat. And I looked at myself because I wasn't really going down this rabbit hole. And I was like, what is this voice in my head? And the voice in my head was telling me to see beyond. See beyond. I'm like, see beyond what? What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. But eventually, what I understood it to mean is that I needed to always see beyond what I could see, meaning that I always needed to go beyond the reality in which I could see. And then that reality became a framework in which I could gain understanding on. And then I had to go beyond that and beyond that and beyond that. So once you, and again, going back to this model here, using the law of Phi and using the expansionary component to the heart expanding and the God force expanding, you begin to see beyond and connect and have agreements with greater beings of understandings. And these greater beings are key. So anyway, jumping back to rituals, rituals are the key to making this connection. And again, we live in a harmonic universe, so I'm always looking at ways to tie musical constructs. So you have a key, which is like a note, right, in music. You have an accord, in order to reach a certain agreement, you have to have an accord. A chord is a musical connection. So when you see beyond, you begin to open a gate. The second thing that I will tell you that I did in the beginning, and this is actually what my guide showed me and how to understand how to initiate rituals. So first thing, see beyond. You've got to open the gate, or at least crack it, so you can begin to go beyond the reality that you are currently constrained in. And we're all constrained in a physical reality at this point, but there's so much more that you can tap into. So that, and then you need to set aside the ego. Well, Joe, that's easier said than done. That's true, but I think and actually don't think, I know that one of the main things that we need to do here is the ego resides in our primordial brain, in the brain stem here. And so what that means is we need to step forward and gain agreement and conquer these survival instincts within the ego. I say conquer, that's probably not the right word. What I want to express to you is we need to bathe the ego in love, because really that's our mission here, is to create this love force from God, from Source. And by doing that, we begin, and this is, I love what my guides did here. They said you begin to access the essence of God. So what did my guides do? They turned the word ego, ego, into EOG, essence of God, because the essence of God resides within you. It resides within your heart. And the ritual is the technology that you can access this God force. And then the next things my guides told me, they told me that I needed to tone. And again, getting back to the spiritual the harmonic aspects of the universe. So toning, and they told me to say the word yam. And I'm like, yam? What kind of a word is yam? So anyway, I'm sitting here the first couple weeks of experimenting as I'm trying to figure out exactly what my guides had told me to do. And I'm saying yam. Actually, I'm in going through the process of figuring out what this is. And then I go, okay, is this a real word? And I was like, so I got on Google and I was like, oh, it's the sound of the heart chakra. And then my guide said, no, it's not the sound of the heart chakra. I'm like, okay, well, that's what Google says. And actually, that's what 99.9% of spiritual teachers will tell you. It is the sound of the heart chakra. It is not the sound of the heart chakra. It is the sound of the element within the heart chakra. So it is the spark, the divine spark that exists within the heart chakra. And I'm going to go down the rabbit hole on talking about chakras and the heart chakra in a different video, because it is mind-blowing how much misinformation is out there on the chakras. So yam, it is the element. And then what they told me was to touch the roof of my mouth. I'm like, touch the roof of my mouth? And you got to remember, I have no context for any of this. Because when you touch the roof of your mouth, you actually create a circuit. And so this circuit opens up the gate, if you will, to your heart, which opens up the all of consciousness. So again, let me go over this again. So you begin to see beyond, you open the gate, you set aside your ego. You are focused on accessing the essence of God. You tone, and then you touch the roof of your mouth, which I've later learned is called the bhaga. So the bhaga actually, and then the point it accesses is the bindu point. And again, my guides told me all of this without any of these big names that are ancient names written in ancient Sanskrit text. So the bhaga, and then you begin to cross the veil based on your intention. So let me kind of break this down for you in a way that I did it. So I would step into meditation. And many of you know that I teach meditating outside of the body in the etheric. The etheric, when I go up and access my etheric body, there is no calcification or anything of the pineal or any strict limitations because that I have in my physical body, because I'm now outside of the physical realm in the etheric, and the etheric is where the creation of all things physical happen. So I am meditating outside of my body. First thing my guides taught me to do. Stepping up there, I have aligned and asked my ego to step away for a moment. And this is the beginning. Now I work with my ego very closely. Then I access the essence of God. So when I start to begin to access the essence of God, here's the image that my guides showed me to do. So when I was up and beginning to meditate, before I'd actually go into meditation, I would walk into this temple, and this temple door would have torches, kind of like this really cool, amazing thing you would imagine in Egypt. And so these torches and then I walk in, and then I am immediately declothed. And I walk into this basin, this vessel filled with water. And this water is not just any water, but it's purification. So what it is doing is it is removing all of the human physical impurities that I have here in the physical world and purifying me to sit in meditation in the etheric realm. And when I do this and come out the other side, I'm immediately re-robed. So I've cleansed, and then I re-robe as I walk through, and then I enter a meditation chamber. And then I go into meditation. So I'm actually not meditating here in the physical, but I am meditating within the etheric, within a special meditation chamber that my imagination, my Magi, the self beyond myself has created in that realm. And from there, I arrive where I need to arrive, meaning that depending on where I am on this map here, I actually am able to tap into things that I am attuned to at this particular point. So again, using the God force that resides within the heart, which is opening up your heart, which is creating this boundless energy of moving past and through time and space. As a matter of fact, let me go to the second page because it's really mind-blowing. I love this stuff. So some of you saw me talk about in a couple of videos ago, so a couple episodes ago, Suri, which is a evolutionary model that the angels had given to me. And if you haven't watched Suri, and I need to do a deeper dive because I just kind of highlighted Suri, but it's definitely an evolutionary model that I need to share with you. So as we begin Suri, it is an attunement model for higher attunement. But one of the interesting things is when you start going down the rabbit hole and you begin attuning, for example, I've met with Tesla and in the etheric, because the consciousness of Tesla is still very vibrant. And I got hints from my conversation with Tesla to look here in the mundane, in the physical world, in order to better understand exactly how these things work within the physical. And then what was interesting is the things that he talked about here aligned very nicely with my lifetime as an Egyptian priest and looking at within the temples the right angle into heaven, because the right angle is actually what I talk about in Suri, which was brought to me by Anubis, who was an Egyptian god, which I communed with back in that lifetime. Now, I know some of you guys are like going, okay, Joe, you're getting way too weird for me. Okay, but stick with me because this is important to understand. So when you understand the power of the right angle, and you understand or understand Tesla's formula for 3, 6, and 9. It's really not a formula, it is really an attunement. So 3 talks about the mental, 6 talks about the emotional. So by eradicating the emotional and mental aspects, and by the way, in a lot of teaching they talk about the emotional body, the mental body. That's a false teaching. There are no mental bodies, there are no emotional bodies. These are fields that are eminent within the dimensional aspect of where we are today. So by controlling these fields and the polar opposites of these fields, and we're able to neutralize these things, this allows for the manifestation of creation here on earth. This allows for amazing healings to happen that, give you a great example, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who some of you may or may not know. Dr. Joe has, let's say, 500 people, 1,000 people in a room to do a healing seminar workshop. And what happens is when you get 500 or 1,000 people attuned at a resonance level, you hit that 0 point because Dr. Joe talks about being no thing within time and space. That no thing is at 0 point. The 0 point is the 9. The 9 is the access into the God force. And because I'm trying to keep this video somewhat short, I'll go into the whole Tesla model and exactly what you need to do. But where people talk about you need to feel, not exactly true. You need to go into the space between the space, within the heart field. And then once you have stepped into that 0 point, the sanctum sanctorum of who you are as a true angelic, you now access the God force, which allows you to create. And that creation allows you to step into the flow. And again, stepping into creation and creating and stepping into the flow is not attraction. You cannot do this with the law of attraction. The law of attraction will not allow you to do this. The law of attraction operates in the mundane muggle world. What I am talking about here with regards to the law of attunement and how to attune yourself into the flow of the God force can only happen at the source level, at the heavenly level. So again, you're stepping into the river of life, the river of all creation. And this is what this model does. And what it does, it neutralizes the charge, and you become golden. And gold is a very important color to understand or understand, because gold neutralizes all charges. So you can actually, when you step into these meditations, envision yourself with a golden essence, a golden framework or energies that are emerging from you, because gold is an incredible power. It is a gift from God, and you have this golden aspect. This is why, and I'll say this real quickly, that they talk about the seventh chakra being purple. That is false. Gold is the color of the exalted mind. It is not a chakra. This emanating up from the heart actually creates the halo of the exalted mind. So it is a halo. It is not a chakra. You've been deceived. And this is very important for you to understand, because as we talk about moving forward in these teachings, there are things you have to do to deprogram yourself from these teachers who have been teaching false teachings. Now, I'm not blaming them, but they learned from a teacher who didn't know any better, and that teacher probably learned from a teacher who didn't know any better. And I could have easily have fallen into that and brought false teachings forward. And the reason that I'm saying that my teachings are different is because I have communed, because I fell on my head, I've had an out-of-body experience with the truth of Source and communed with angels. And then what I did was I actually looked back and went back and looked at some of these very ancient texts that have been hidden, but you can still find them if you know where to look, which proved up my point of exactly what I told you. So trust in the halo of the exalted mind, and the mind of the exalted person is one of the heart. So I want you to remember, you are angelic. You are amazing, illuminating, this luminescent being. And so I would love to hear your feedback and see if you got this understanding or understanding of exactly what to do with regards to activating rituals and moving forward, going through this process. And again, this is how my guides taught me. This may be a great first step for you. So again, open the gate, set aside your ego, understand that you are the essence of God. Tone yourself, because you have to tone yourself to the heart in order to access this. So this is a ritual and how you approach all things in life. So again, we're moving from the left brain to the right creative aspect of God, which is the wellspring that comes from your heart. Do the Bhaga. Again, touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth, and I'll actually get into at some point how you can move your tongue around to change channels. Seriously. Just like when you attune, as you're creating a circuit, there are certain places that you can touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth that you can attune to different frequencies and channels, which will allow you to attune to different levels of heaven or different levels of Source, depending on how you want to look at this. And then again, cross the veil. So again, follow these meditation steps. Let me know if you have any questions. I tried my best really to give some background here, to give you a step-by-step formula, but it takes practice. And some of you may go into meditation and hit it out of your body, step into the etheric, and it's like, dude, Joe, this is like freaking amazing, or Joe, this is amazing. I can't believe that I've been able to commune with these gods and angels. Well, it's not going to surprise me. But I think, not even I think, I know that everyone who watches this has this amazing ability. So with that, much love. Leave me your thoughts. Hit the like button wherever it might be. I'm doing this out of love, not to do anything on YouTube other than just share these angelic teachings with my fellow angelics and evolutionaries. So I love you, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Much love.